Hello and welcome to OzLoL Podcast, episode 114. My name is Carrot Colossus. I am host. This week we're going to be talking about Ocean Week, we're going to be talking about Shen, and of course we're going to be talking about the OPL because this is the OzLoL Podcast after all, and that's what we do. This week I am joined by our stalwarts. We've got Pixie, who's left.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I was out of funny props. I'm not.
Okay. We've got Smite.
Hello, I don't have a camera or props.
Yeah.
So sorry, but I'm still pretty exciting.
We have returning from semi-retirement, we've got Victor.
Filling in for Wombat and
Filling for
then
Wombat.
realizing I didn't need to fill in at all and then being like, oh, well, I'm here, I may as well.
We tried to kick you out.
We tried to have
Always try.
a coup, but alas, it didn't happen. A putsch. I'm trying the German word. Anyway, before we get to pre-World War II history, we've also got Stephen Garstone returning from a lengthy trek in the wilderness, aka Northern
It's
Territory.
dangerous.
He was
It's not
searching
safe
for
to
the
go
fourth
alone.
hole.
Yeah.
No.
I got a bit of a cold, so if I laugh and then cough, I apologize. What? I don't know what you're going on about. And we're also going to join us for the very first time. We've got Billy, aka Billy the Intern, aka Panda.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
Now I
For
feel
those of
he
you
has
who
to die horrififically in every episode.
I have to say though, before we carry
He
on,
should be wearing a red shirt.
but before I actually knew what this podcast was about, I was like, oh, if I'm going to be on here, I'm going to be like super PC and like be real nice, cut my swearing down. Listen to the first one, and it's literally just Pixie talking about Smite's penis.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
Things
no.
have
No.
radically changed.
Is
Firstly,
this-
Victor, and then
this is-
Pixie, and it's like a decline.
This is what happens when I take time off.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Billy the Intern, for those who aren't aware, is actually a joke to do 40k, but anyway. Apparently Billy the Intern also means other things. Before we get started into the meat of the show, Billy, why don't you tell us, same questions for everybody who's new, favourite champ, favourite lane, and maybe also tell us where you are placed in, or were placed last year in solo queue.
yeah,
And
so
why
last-
to all these questions?
why I was placed to solo queue because I played. I think I peaked about Diamond 5. I was about halfway to Diamond 5, and then I just stopped playing because I was like, yeah, I got the Diamond, so that's me for the season. My favorite role is be support. I just like playing support. It's such a satisfying role. You get to like ruin everyone's day. And my favorite support is one of
You
those.
do that
like,
deliberately? I think I just do that unintentionally all the time.
like,
That's why you
go
always
in,
get
you
stuck
fight
with
and just
support.
die, and
It's
yeah.
like, the difference between a bronze player and a diamond player, they're doing the same thing, but the bronze player is doing it to their own team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry, guys. I'm playing Bard. I got this.
Yeah.
Or the Java, just any Java. No, my favorite
I love
champion.
the Bard approach to playing, though. It's like, if I can't have the dragon, no one can.
Yeah.
For 2 seconds.
My favorite champ would be Syndra support. I played it a couple of seasons ago, and I met the Pixies giving me that look. It's actually really strong. People underestimate it a lot, and then the Koreans have done it, so now it's good.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
This is what I'm going to have to deal with when I go to Diamond. Great.
yeah, I haven't actually played it in solo queue. It's just one of those things that I like to go into pubs, and no one expects it. And she just puts out so much damage with so few items, so it's good.
Awesome. Cool. Well, let's get into the meat and bones of the show. So, firstly, we mentioned the esports, NT esports with stream with Victor and Steve, which was, when did that finish up? Like an hour ago?
An hour ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep.
How'd it go with NT esports?
It was really good. For those of you who are interested, it was the best of 3 decider for 4th place, as only the top 4 positions get to go into the semi-finals. And it was Bot Lane OP, which is the name of the team, who beat out Chocolate Thunder 2-0, and they have proceeded into the semi-finals. And they will be playing against Destiny, who are our first seed, so first versus 4th place going in, and that'll be this
Is it just
coming Saturday.
Is it just the player Destiny, as in he's taking on 5 people at once?
It's just he's soloing him. It's Team Destiny.
Yeah,
is the-
okay. And he's OPL level support player, like versus 5 people. That would be interesting.
Yeah. That's the meta up here. We only,
Yeah.
we only the bandwidth in Darwin can only tolerate 6 players at a time.
and it's the only games I
Treeline
will
will
ever
finally get
cast.
some use.
Yeah.
The only games I will ever cast. I have no interest in casting these boring, regular, perfectly normal games.
Yeah.
The live
Gotta
event.
be crazy.
If Destiny's involved, I'll do it. It doesn't matter.
Is that your destiny? Is it?
My destiny. Hashtag get your destiny. And
So-
hashtag once done, you're done. I remember that one.
Hashtag once done, you're done.
So this goes up on YouTube, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
guys-
It was streamed via YouTube. I'm 100% certain it hasn't been uploaded just yet, but
Oh, well, not yet, but
Yeah,
it finished
but
like
it
what
will
an
be,
hour
so-
ago. But
Yeah.
you put them all up on YouTube. I'm guessing the channel is just NT Esports and or something like that, and I can just
Mhm.
YouTube it, find it
Yeah.
out, and listen to Victor's casting.
Or
You put on the
maybe
voice for it?
our viewers
Guys,
can do
if
that
you
too.
are, if you love like 5v5 gameplay, that's awesome, isn't it? 5v5 gameplay. Champ Select, we have Champ Select. Great analytical breakdowns by Stephen Garstone. We
if
have
you
a lot
like
of that.
5v5s and think this
And
is okay.
we also have violent Russian screaming. So if you're into any of those things, these are the games for you to watch.
I have to say though, if I wanted to see 5v5 gameplay, I'd go watch a bronze game because after 15 minutes, everyone just congregates in the mid lane.
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, pretty
It becomes
much.
an ARAM, it's great.
Group is 5 and push mid. That's the
If you
strat,
have
man.
no other idea what
No,
to do,
they
you
just
go
group
to
it
mid
as
lane.
5 and fight. They don't push
Yeah.
anything. They just
Yeah.
fight.
That's because they're so
Well-
crap that by the end of the fight, they're all
Alright,
like so
you
low.
see, now, the opposite thing is the teams that just try and never end laning phase ever. They're constantly pushing lanes, but that's all they're doing. They're like, should we group and fight, even though they are doing exactly that to a mid laner? No, let me just keep chipping away at this turret.
Now,
But see, the funny
Fucking
thing is with your
AP
story about
misfortune, shot by shot. Here we go.
how people in bronze they suddenly just go in and basically make the game an ARAM really early. The thing is, like, they're doing that in LCK right now. They're smashing down the first turrets, and then that's why like, you're seeing Lux picks as well. And you know, this is getting a bit too much into the esports talk a little too early on. But like, it's kind of funny how you can compare like literally Oceanic Bronze to
Well,
professional
that's
Korean
why-
play.
That's why all the gold players placed in bronze this season.
It's because
Oh.
a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yes.
So there's a sense that eventually bronze will actually be onto the right tactic. Just purely by accidents, purely by coincidence. Anyway, we should move on from that. But let's talk about Ocean Week. So
Before we go into Ocean Week, I just want to quickly say that there is a massive thunderstorm happening that's only just started. So if I cut out randomly, it's just
If
par
a
for the
mon- if
course.
a monsoon
If I
interrupts
tried
the
to cut out,
stream,
Would it be just then?
yeah,
Yeah, that's it. If I ever cut out, boop,
yeah.
All we're gonna
That's
see is
even
just like
worse.
Steve's hair go up suddenly in this big bright flash.
Yeah.
Maybe your city is the next city to be attacked by Ocean Week.
A giant crab.
Yeah.
Is it a giant
So
crab for
Ocean-
every city?
I don't know.
Ocean Week, as
I
far
don't know.
as tell, is Riot's remake of Pacific Rim.
Yeah, which
I
is
don't know
actually
why
a
it was
great
giant
concept.
crab though. Why wasn't it a scuttle crab? Like
Giant
something.
enemy crab
Scar.
guy. Fuck, come on.
Yeah.
Have
See-
you already forgotten that skin?
No,
I
it's
really
the honest to God skin I have.
I really
Yeah,
want-
no, I was more mad that it's not the crab ergot, but
Yeah.
whatever. I guess to people who don't know what Ocean Week is, first question is how do you not know? It's all over the client.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, basically it's Riot saying like, oh look out, there's a giant crab attacking every city, but like only one city per day, and it can somehow cross that distance to attack the next city within like 2 days, I think.
Yeah.
But
And
Now, to
isn't
it's not
successfully
just
defend-
one crab.
it's
Come on.
isn't it their way of delivering on the promise they made for us last year to have that giant statue dropped off by the reef or whatever?
No, that's still happening.
that's still
it's
happening.
That, funnily enough, dropping something in an ocean by a reef requires a dickload of permits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, if you
but-
thought opening a restaurant took a long time, like,
Yeah.
Just throwing some
Because
trash
that's-
into the ocean.
But yeah, putting
across
putting
the-
your thing in the myriad ocean that there is in Australia. Like it's not like they've only got one ocean and it's really no. There's shitloads of it, and they still have lots of trouble getting in there. Anyway, we should explain what Ocean Week is. So you may be familiar with Ocean Week from last year, which was just essentially gaining points by playing games, and then if we, as we accumulate, people across the entire server accumulate points, you unlock different rewards, and the top reward last year was the building this statue, which turned out to be Nautilus, which they're going to put, every person who got a certain amount of points is going to get their name put on it, and they're going to put it in the ocean for realsy. This time round, the concept is a giant crab is attacking different cities. We've got Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide, Auckland, Suva, which is in Fiji, Brisbane, and Sydney. I find it funny they had to put in brackets Suva as in Fiji, as in like nobody would know where it is.
No one else knew what it was.
Like,
well, I also
Suva.
like how they've got like however many Australian cities, one New Zealand city, one Fijian city.
Yeah.
Well, to be
I
fair,
also want to point out that
probably fair enough.
Yeah.
Darwin is an expendable and
Yeah.
valid loss. There,
As is Canberra. As is Canberra.
gigantic crocodiles have already destroyed Darwin,
Yeah.
and we're not going to bother fighting for it. Well, I think we'll take that back once the season changes.
You know, I think my favorite thing about all of that though is like, it's kind of a wider thing to it. Like, we complain as New Zealanders playing League of Legends that New Zealand gets kind of marginalized in the oceanic scene as a whole purely because Australia is bigger, right? But we forget that Oceania isn't just Australia and New Zealand, it's all of Oceania. So, like,
Well, yeah.
somewhere at right, no, seriously, somewhere at right, they actually had to, like, they would have remembered that, like, oh shit, that's right. And they would have had to look at all their data, like, alright, where are most of our Pacifica players? Because we can't really afford to do more than one Pacifica city.
Yeah.
Okay. Most of them are in Fiji.
Hey, look, we've got one guy playing from Suva. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Well, I can just imagine, like, the 11 Fijians versus, like, the 10 Rarotongans who are really bummed out they didn't get on the list.
No, but like also, New Caledonia is apparently where the big crab came from.
Yeah. It's true.
So that's being mentioned too.
So he's saying that Australia got crabs from New Caledonia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
It's pretty much the story of every Australian that goes there.
What are they doing in New Caledonia where they're spawning giant mutant crabs?
It's the French, hey, who
I'm
knows?
sorry,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
SDG jokes aside, I feel like there's a serious nuclear waste issue going on. Maybe.
So, I was just
If you want to
going
help
to say,
defend the attack from these giant monsters, you, as a player, can help us.
yeah,
Not by enlisting into the military, but by playing ARAMs.
yes.
So go play ARAMs and earn points to defend the onslaught against these giant, terrible monsters, and then you get a free skin. Hey!
So yeah, I mean, like so the different levels of reward, it's different this time. So essentially, for defending cities, there's more things sort of unlocked for all the players who have participated. So, double free week champions is the from defending one city. The second level is enable self mystery gifting with twice the legendary chance for defending 2 cities. 3 cities is a summoner icon for Ocean Week. 4 cities is double IP weekend, which is always fun. 5 cities is mystery champion. So if you contribute at least 4 points, you'll get a random champion, which I'm
And
sure.
if you have all champions, they give you a skin.
Well, it's if you have close enough to all champions, so that it's like the same restriction for getting a mystery skin. Like if you have 10 champions and have, like, I don't know, 8 out of 11 skins available for them, it'll be like you can't get a mystery gift because you have too small a pool. So if you have like 120 out of 130 champions, then it will give you a mystery skin instead. I got that last year.
Right, because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the only champion I haven't got is Alawi. Awesome. Alawi and Kindred. So I'm like, sweet, I get one of those 2 for free. And no,
You're getting a skin instead.
getting a skin instead.
Yeah.
I think the longest period I've been without
Clearly,
all the
you
champions
just
is
don't-
1 week.
Clearly, you just don't want Urgot, so we're not going to
Yeah,
force it.
yeah. It shouldn't be mystery champion. It should be Urgot.
Mystery Urgot.
Mystery Urgot.
Don't forget the top prize.
It's just Crab God.
Yep. So the top prize is a community wall. The community wall is a public mural created in a major oceanic city, aka it's either going to be Sydney or Melbourne. If you contribute 10 points or more during Ocean Week, your name will be recorded on this. On it if it's unlocked. The final battle will take place in the last 2 days of Ocean Week.
So
there's
interesting
a boss fight.
that it says that, right? Like if you look at it on the client, it says defend 5 cities and the final battle. Now there are 7 cities to defend, which means I feel like the final battle
Someone's
is going to
getting
be
dicked.
Brisbane and Sydney. There's going to be like some kind of monster thing happening there.
Yeah.
I mean, like monster thing.
No, it's gonna really fuck up everyone. It's gonna come out of the pond in Alice Springs.
Defend Uluru.
Yeah.
Yeah. Turns out
That's
Uluru
where
is
they
a
see-
monster.
No, that's
Defend
where their
Otago
secret
University.
base is. It's where their secret base is. There's just this video of Uluru going.
Thunderbird style. I could
Giant
just
crab comes out and starts stalking across the
It's like,
outback.
let's
The only
talk
problem
about
with
the
that
OPL.
is that we'd get lost. It would start going in circles before it came across any civilization.
Imagine if
And
it
then it would
actually
just
was
cook
like.
itself.
Imagine if it was actually like Thunderbirds and it was like just actually like a giant puppet like marionette monster. It's just like.
I can't wait for the next Mad Max movie where they come across it.
Yeah.
Like
Alright.
300 years in the apocalyptic nuclear future, there's still this giant crab wandering around Australia because we couldn't win the final battle.
Alright,
So-
well,
so-
anyway, guys, that's a quarter of the show dedicated to Ocean Week.
Yeah.
No. But one last thing though, like I've got to iterate this because it's very important. I had to ask Riot themselves. So I was thinking, like, you know, I've got all champions, right? So obviously I'm gonna get the mystery skin instead of mystery champion. Now, because once we get that, obviously we'll have unlocked the self mystery gifting with twice the legendary chance, like, you know, to get a legendary skin. And I asked Riot, like, if we have all champions and get the mystery skin instead, does that have twice the chance for a legendary skin? And they were just like, no, it doesn't.
Lame.
You're not getting that.
That's because you're not self-mystery gifting.
Yeah, I know, but you know, just in case anyone wanted it, anyone thought they were going to get a pretty sweet
Well,
deal from Riot, it's only
not
going to be a
until you brought
little
it
less
up.
sweet.
It's still a free skin.
Yeah.
I want a legendary skin.
So anyway, let's just sort of finish up by just saying you get different points for like it's basically a point for playing on any match main map. So and then there's double points on certain days for different maps. So just check it out in the client and it looks pretty. I mean, what do people think? Like we've kind of joked a bit about it. Like, do you like the idea? You know, is this something you'd be happy to see again next year or something like it?
I think it's cool. Like
Yeah.
I love that, you know, they're trying to make something a little bit unique to our server. And you know, to be fair, that's a pretty hard ask considering it's not like we're not just like the Russian server where you can just like, I don't know, do Russian things for the server. Like it's the same reason it took so long for us to get a. Sorry, I just saw Victor and thought Russian.
Set yourself on fire and jump off a roof.
This Aussie guy to ever live, and you're like, yeah, I look at him and I think Russian. Fuck, right now, I look at him and think furry. Alright?
Anyway, yeah, no, like the same reason that it took so long to get a regional skin. It's so hard to like find a coherent theme for the Oceanic server. But Ocean Week, I think, is really cool, and you know, they're doing community things for it too that last, like the reef when when it gets done, like 3 years, but and then the community wall as well, and then like cool little bonuses as well. It makes you feel like we're not just, you know, the Oceanic server isn't just something you log into to play LoL. It's like an actual, you know, region where we have a community.
Yeah.
Especially,
Well,
it's good in considering that normally this is like we have the snowdown showdown type stuff this time of year, and it's like, yeah, it's 45 degrees outside, and there's a snow day. Woo! So it's
I
good to
still
actually
feel
have
like
something that's
Christmas during snow.
And all the Americans hear that in like 45 degrees. Man, that's cold.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, the
it's
thing
45
though
degrees
is,
right now.
One of the things that I kind of like about it is and I've sort of been seeing more and more of this recently actually because Riot when they started doing this stuff in Oceania, they made a real point of making sure they could have unique stuff for Oceania. Like the reason we have a totally separate esports site is purely for the sake of autonomy. So it's nice seeing them use that autonomy. Like this isn't just something they said so that we'd all feel good. It's like it is actually something they're implementing, which is good. I feel like I'm getting the preferential treatment.
Also worth mentioning, just before we move on, there's a cosplay competition and a fan art competition, so make sure you check that out. The entries have to be in by the end of January, so you got about a week. And there's actually pretty good prizes. Top 10 entries for both the art and the cosplay. You get like 5 skins and then 10,000 RP, which is pretty nice.
They're all ocean themed.
They're ocean themed, yeah.
Whoa.
So, yeah. Cool. Well, let's talk about OPL, since that's why we're here. So, this week we've had the very first week of the OPL. We've had, so spoilers, of course. The results were Avantgarde, Chiefs, Direwolves, and Legacy all won their games, and Hellion, Infernum, Sin Gaming, and Tried It all lost. And
2-0?
mainly it was two zeros across the board.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing. Obviously, if you haven't listened to anything we said in the last podcast, OPL is best of 3 right now. We've got a head start on the other regions, the other big regions. Obviously, LPL and Korea also do best of threes, but
They got
it's
a head
pretty
start
cool.
on us.
I'd say like 2 of the 2-0s were like legitimate stomps, but the other ones were
The stops
specifically
being for the benefit of those.
Trident and Chiefs that series, and then
Yeah.
Hellions versus Avant-Garde. They were a little closer than a 2-0 would, imply.
Yeah. Or certainly the first game was, and I know we're gonna probably do a bit more of a game by game, but that was something that actually struck me quite a lot. Was even when the first game had been closer, the second game was always more one-sided.
Yeah.
Which is something I think will happen less and less as teams get used to a best-of-3 format, because it's a tournament fatigue kind of thing. But that was just quite interesting to actually see happening in like literally every series this week.
Cool. Well, let's go into some of the games. So let's talk about Trident versus Chiefs, since that was probably the banner game of the week. Being
Even though they waited until Wednesday to do it.
Yeah.
Fine.
So Chiefs have obviously been the champions from last year, and the Trident being the hot young team on the block. What do people think of that game?
So just before we get into it,
Yeah.
it was the OPL Legend match.
Oh yeah, that's
which
right.
means so basically to describe it shortly, it's a title given to initially given to the team that won the last split, which was Chiefs. So they're currently the OPL Legend team, and every game that the team with that title plays, they're defending it. So if, for example, Trident had beat Chiefs in that best of 3, they would have taken the title, and in their next game, whoever they played would have the chance to take it off them. However, Trident didn't win, so Chiefs hold on to that, and they'll be defending it up against whoever they're playing next week, which I'm sure we'll get into later.
It's kind of like the hardcore championship from like the WWF region, where as long as you can book a fight against that person.
Right, I've been pretty vague on like what it actually means to hold that, but I've seen like whispers and rumors around it. But I do remember that they did say on the OPL broadcast that the team actually gets paid more for holding that title. So definite incentives for them to like try and get that.
Imagine if Ejim just like walks up to one of the guys on Trident, just like hits them with a chair like mid-match. That'd be like the best. Yeah.
They don't play in the studio.
Yeah,
so.
I know. It's just like a ladder with the Baron buff on top of whoever gets to the top of the ladder. All right. Well, let's. What about the actual content of the game? So,
I love the first game. Honestly,
the first game was very interesting. Like,
so I kind of want to start this off from the draft, because honestly, Trident drafted that kind of wrong. Like, it was a good team comp, but it was just so not right against what Chiefs were fielding, right? But then the game kind of went a different direction. Who wants to talk about that? I don't want to say anything on it because I'm a big Trident fanboy.
Okay, so
Alright.
you go, Smite. Yep.
All right, I'll go then. I'm also a big Trident fanboy because my boy Pac-Man's in the team. But the story of the game was like, it was, Chiefs kind of had the upper hand for quite a while, especially during laning, because that's just the story. They're better at laning, they're better at jungling. It's just because they're the best team so far. So they were holding a pretty good lead, and things were slowly slipping away for Trident. And then Chiefs, as if anyone's ever watched the wildcard tournaments, they'll know Chiefs went for a greedy dive in mid lane, and that sort of turned into an extended fight. Pac-Man, top laner for Trident, on Darius of all people, got a triple kill during that, and that got them back into the game. And Trident were playing that very well from that point.
Oh yeah.
But then it came to some questionable calls later on, where it just ended up. Trident dropped the ball, and Chiefs jumped on it immediately and took the win out from there. I don't know. I mean, Billy, would you say that's pretty much how it happened?
But yeah, it was. That's pretty much how it played out. These teams like Trident, you got Infernum Sin, they don't exactly have the stamina in these sort of best of threes. They'll start strong. They start very strong. Yeah. They'll be able to keep up with these other teams, and then they just fall off. And then the second game is an absolute wash. If you look at like the actual gold chart and from that first game. For 33 minutes, the gold was fairly even. Like, it wasn't deviating more than 1,000 gold. And then in 4 minutes, Chiefs increased their gold lead by 6k. So it was they were doing well, they kept ahead, and then all of a sudden, it just started getting to them, and they made bad decisions, and Chiefs, being the team they are, having been in that international scene, kind of knew how to play and deal with that situation, and then just capitalized.
Yeah, and it's the thing
that's the thing that's going to affect everyone for the first few weeks of this
Yeah.
competition.
Best of threes, yeah, that was what I was talking about. Like, it's not quite tournament fatigue because that refers to really long haul type stuff where you're like 5 games deep. Like, but I mean, you did right there. Like, that's kind of why I'm excited about the best of three still, because it's like I can look at this week and go, man, it's really unsatisfying having the whole series decided by the first game, or I can look at it and go, by the end of the split, these teams are going to be used to this, and we're going to get some really awesome, really intense seasons. Also, you kind of can't help but think that when we start getting towards like wildcard and international competitions, our teams are going to be better equipped to actually perform at them because they're going to have a ton of experience in it. I know I've kind of touched on this before, but this was a very it actually showed how much work needs to be done on it, which is something we weren't even able to see before when we were doing best of one. So I'm kind of excited for where this just takes us as a region.
Yeah, most definitely.
Should we move on to like maybe another series? I mean, just to wrap up the
Yes.
Trident versus Chiefs. Game 2 was just a disaster for Trident.
Yeah.
It was absolutely
They were just kind of, they drafted
Yeah.
really poorly and were kind of pigeonholed into things, and it's honestly, I'd say it's the champion pool really limits
Yeah.
them, particularly BMA. It just doesn't let them get the really good flex picks like Lysandra, because I know that BMA doesn't play it. Pac-Man, I've seen him practice on it a lot, so he definitely can, but they don't have the flex advantage of what Lysandra brings, so that's just one example of their champion pool kind of limiting them.
So can I just go back to a point, just what you were saying about doing best of 3 series? Do they know in advance what side they'll be, like, game 1, you know, whether they'll be red or blue side?
Yes. Yeah, they do.
So they know in advance, because I think that makes a big difference. Like, if they didn't know till the day, it'd be hard to plan, but I guess over the split,
level 1 stretch.
yeah, they'll be able to go, okay, well, we know we've got game 1 on red side, we know we've got game 2 on blue side, and then they can build strats around those sorts of things.
Yeah,
Is a huge
that's a good point actually. I think overall verdict, Trident is still a contender for top 4. They've got a lot of kinks to iron out, and I think Smite was right on the money with champ pool being an issue.
All right, which game do you guys want to talk about next? It's right.
Hellions?
Yeah, someone had a favorite match of the week. They called it as Hellions versus Avant. I didn't catch enough of it, but I know that it was a pretty good series. But
Yeah.
I think it was you, Billy, that called it as your
Yep.
favorite match. So
It-
talk us through it.
It was amazing to see. Honestly, like the 2 Korean imports that Hellions did, they had an absolutely amazing showing. Like Bomb was absolutely dominating that mid lane against a LeBlanc as a Nivea. It's not something you technically see like very often because LeBlanc can just get in there and absolutely obliterate a very immobile Nivea. And they were doing well because they had their comp and they were playing to it up until about like 30 minutes into the game, and Ryu just made a poor decision and tried to take out Malaz. And just didn't stick to that plan they had set in, and it really cost them. It cost them the game, in fact.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I feel like that was a common theme across the week as a whole of the team that tended to have a lead in the first game. You know, it was the same thing we saw with Trident as well. When they started to have a lead, they didn't finish out the strategy that would carry them to a win. They would deviate from it at just one crucial point, get caught and get punished for it, and the game would just slip out of their fingers like that. And props as well to the teams that took that and then didn't do exactly the same thing, you know, that actually did just close out the game properly. So that's definitely just it's like something that every team as a whole, I think, is really going to have to examine.
How, like, with
Everyone went really quiet after that.
how was
Shocked
how
by
was
what
the
you said,
synergy
Vincent.
on Hellions? Because something we talked about last week was the fact that you got these 2 Korean imports. You got Ryu on top, who has got a Korean name, so we presume he speaks Korean. But you know, like, did it look like?
He does speak Korean.
Okay, well, you know,
Yeah.
you weren't here, Stephen, so you weren't able to confirm for us last week. Thanks for
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah, like, did it look like the communication was going smoothly, or like how did that sort of look from what you saw? Somebody.
Like I take this one, yeah. No, they worked well. They did communicate well. They were sticking to their plan. Like so, they obviously understood each other and knew what to do. It was just they got impatient, which was the thing that let them down. So obviously they going forward they know how to communicate. So that's not going to be the problem with this team. It's just going to be keeping a level head and maintaining that patience. These two, obviously, like they're not top tier Korean players, but they're good enough so they know what they're doing and can hold their own.
Yeah.
The only thing is they just need to be patient and stick with the comp they're drafting around rather than try and force things.
Yeah.
And how about AV? Because I mean, I guess that was something we talked about. We were like, AV, have they got
No one
tags?
really pitched them as pretty well, did they? AV was like consistently people's bottom 4. I mean, a win over Hellions doesn't like cement them being top tier.
No.
But still, I don't know. I mean, it kind of surprised me that Avant-Garde won.
Yeah, it surprised me in terms of individual talent, because when you just look at the talent, Avant don't look better on paper than Hellions. But, the thing that we've said 3 or 4 times now, like, Avant ended up being just the better team at actually playing a strategy. At least from how the games ended up panning out. I ended up not watching the whole of the second game, so I could be talking out of my butthole here. But it certainly seems that way. That in any case, the teams that are able to just execute. I mean, every single team makes mistakes, like makes way more mistakes than teams in other regions at this level of play do. That's just because we're a newer region, I would say. But the teams that were able to execute better won, and that execution is nothing to be balked at. So AV, I wouldn't say this puts them up into the top 4 still, but they could take some good old blue shell wins.
Yeah, in any case,
I think they could be doing that all season easily.
I mean, who actually played for AV? Because I look at their team listing on the OC Esports web page, and there's about 8 players, and I think they've only got 1 support there. They're all mid lanes and top lanes, and Eddie carries. Like, so obviously Chelby is in the jungle. Was Blind Turkey, was he there? So,
Blind Turkey was playing Thresh in the first game, and he was absolutely amazing. He was hitting hooks left and right. I think it's safe to say he was probably the main reason why they did so well in that game. He was just hitting hooks that really counted, and it just helped capitalize on the mistakes that Hellions did eventually make.
Yeah, and to their credit, they do still have good individual talent. Like, it's unfair to say, this team looks less stacked. They don't have any talent. They do have talent. It's just if you line them up one by one, it doesn't quite look as... it's 8 versus 9 rather than 4 versus 9.
So who are their carries? So who they have in the top and the mid and then in marksman?
Destiny on the AD carry, and so you got Wrecked in the mid lane.
Yep.
And then Milal's in top lane. Destiny, oh my god, 11 kills in that first game. He went off.
Yeah.
Obviously. But yeah, like Billy said, it's really down to Blind Turkey. Just smashing them hooks out all over the place. But no, I mean, you got to give some props to the carries doing their jobs and getting kills, though.
I do have to say though, Wrecked looked very shaky in that mid game. I think because he is a solo queue player, that's where they got him from. I have to say that did show quite heavily in that first game. He got quite frustrated just because he was getting dominated in lane by that Anivia, and there was several times where he literally rage engaged just to deal some damage to that Anivia.
Yeah, which is among the kinks to be ironed out. Like this week 1 very much looked like a week 1 to me. And we were seeing things like that, teams not executing on strategy properly, and all the sorts of things that get worked out as time goes by. So, yeah. Don't know where I was going to wrap that one up.
So let's talk about AV and Infernum. So, how do they...
Direwolves?
Sorry, Direwolves and Infernum, sorry. Direwolves and Infernum.
Similar story, I would say. Direwolves kind of looked on track to start... Sorry, Infernum, rather, in Game 1, looked like they could actually be able to pull something out, and then they didn't.
Yeah.
They were very nearly there. They drafted fairly well, I would say, Direwolves. They're sort of 1 part pick, 1 part siege. And the thing is, Infernum on paper as well picked up a lot of what everyone is pinning as the OP picks right now. They had the Gangplank, they had the Trundle, they had the Tahm Kench as well. But it was execution. You know, it really was execution, and you can't help but feel like a team that had have had all the execution could well have been able to pull this one out. I can't remember the how the actual game ended up falling.
Oh
In
my
terms
god,
of,
yeah,
like,
no.
Yeah,
I've
because it was
watched
like
so
the
much
first one of the
esports
week.
this week.
Yeah, I can't remember like what like individual plays actually turned it around and whatnot.
Yeah,
I
no,
will
I
say that
can't
I'm not a
unfortunately
fan
find
of
it.
jungle. I will say I'm still not a fan of jungle Nidalee. It just feels too risky at all levels of play. But
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. The the two series that we're talking about now, the Direwolves and Infernum, and then after this, Legacy and Sin, they were just a little bit more one-sided. There wasn't a lot of resistance put up by the losing team, and I think a lot of that has to do with just Direwolves and Legacy being pretty good teams this split, and
yeah.
looking quite strong while not changing a huge amount of their roster. So,
I have to say with the Infernum series, the first game was okay. They did reasonably well in the first half of it, but you can tell in the second game they really took that loss really hard because
Yeah.
their picks definitely shot because it was very solo QE in terms of what they picked. It was champs they were individually strong on rather than what was best for their team. Which was more evident with like Jack Attack, who just instantly picked that Malphite, which is one of his key picks, but it didn't really have any synergy with what their team was going with.
no,
Yeah.
And
funnily enough, actually, we actually talked about this series in the last podcast because we did it right after
Yeah.
the series actually
Yeah.
happened. So you could probably compare our memories just by looking at
Yeah.
that podcast.
Well, one of the interesting things I'm just sort of scanning back over it right now is Infernum did play a solid early game in terms of how they actually rotated around the map, and Direwolves showed their experience by not letting that throw them off. They like it stayed at like 3 kills to 1 for like some nearly 10-15 minutes, I think, of the game, and Direwolves wanted to sort of push and siege and manipulate waves a bit, and that's exactly what they did. And they ended up evening up the gold and eventually pulling out ahead because they ended up picking up some turrets. Infernum got 2 dragons, and that was all good. And they potentially had the better team fight comp, but Direwolves just weren't going to play to that at all. So again, it's execution, and it got to a point where Infernum were like, oh god, we want a team fight, let's make a team fight happen, and at that point Direwolves were kind of already ahead.
Yeah.
So yeah, execution.
I mean, and that's always been.
I feel like that's the theme of the week, really.
Yeah, I mean that's always been the big gap in terms of performance for the lesser teams, and the better, like the top 2 or 3 teams in OC have always had that execution side of things much better down pat than say Inferno, which for those who aren't familiar, they're absolute rebranded. So they were one of the lesser teams in the last split. It's just it's the nature of just the reality of being in a non-professional, like a totally I guess a semi-professional at best region,
Yeah.
All right, well, any comments on Legacy versus Sin?
Legacy are the better team.
Legacy won this one 2-0.
I have to say I was incredibly mad in that second game seeing that Chippy's picking up Lulu didn't build a single item for cooldown reduction other than his boots. He just built straight AP, and that's not what you want to be building on Lulu just because he needs that sort of cooldown reduction just so he can get off his kit when he needs to.
Another thing is, like, I thought Sin Gaming would like do a little bit better, but then again, they forgot to. Yeah, they forgot to ban Trundle against the Oceanic Hipster Trundle player Strawbella.
Yeah.
I mean, she played a ton of Trundle last split, even last season, and now that Trundle's like a legitimate thing, particularly in the support role, you'd think you'd ban that out or at least pick it away, but they didn't do that.
And
yeah, exactly.
And the picks, just the way that the first game was played, like Juves and Rymeister didn't get a single kill in that first game, and it was literally because Carbon came in and shut down Juves in the jungle, and from there they just couldn't recover.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing I said is, the same thing I'll say about the series till the day I die. Legacy are just the better team. They might not be the better team by the end of the split. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? But they laned better. Before that, they pick banned better. They drafted better. They laned better. They rotated better. They strategized better. And just at the end of the day, they played the game better than Sin Gaming did. Maybe Sin Gaming can play a better game than what they played on that day, but that's the point they have to work towards, and that showed what sort of work might need to go into it. And I think one of the other things to be said about this week as a whole is I would kind of argue that Trident Chiefs was the only match we had that was between two top 4 teams that are also quite close together. Like, we had 2 teams that were closer together with Avant and Hellions. Maybe they'll gun for top 4. Like, we haven't had, the Legacy Chiefs type matchups or the Direwolves Trident type matches yet. So a lot of these matches are also just going to be more disparate because of just the pure, it's Legacy versus Sin. What did we expect?
Good news for you, though, as we can talk about the upcoming matches in next week.
Oh, boy!
Look a little bit less stacked,
Check out
I'd
them
say.
segues.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would look a little bit, I don't know, less predictable of the outcome, right? So you've got Trident versus Sin, which should be a better indication of how well Trident are going to be in the split because, they lost their first series, but that was against Chiefs. And you can sort of say, like, oh, well, they played really well in the first game. Still only one game. So we'll have to still wait and see. And we can see that a little bit better against Sin Gaming, who's another, like, middle-of-the-pack sort of tier team. Probably a bit lower, actually. But we'll see if Trident are, not a lower tier team or not. Then you've got Avant versus Legacy. That's probably the only game, the only series I'd say that is still a stacked game. But maybe Avant, because they've already won the game.
Yeah, that'll be one that really tests Avant's mettle, I think. And this is their opportunity to become the Blue Shell team.
Yeah.
So, like, if they even if they don't win but they perform well, it will have me turning around and saying, okay, Avant could go top 4 this split.
So
I think this will be the game that kind of tests that.
Just to interrupt, what the hell is a blue shell team? You've said it a couple of times now.
Okay, so Mario Kart.
Mario Kart. So in Mario Kart, the blue shell is an item you can get from a box. You fire it out, and it automatically hits whoever is in first place, no matter what.
Okay.
And
have you played Crash Team Racing?
And if you are at the end of the pack, if you're towards the back of the pack, you are more likely to get a blue shell. So like Complexity, like the classic blue shell team, they would play like shit, and then suddenly they'd beat like TSM or Cloud9.
Man, that's such a nerdy reference. Such a nerd.
Fortnite are currently the only blue shell team to ever grace the OPL.
Yeah, the true blue shell.
Yeah.
The only team that, got relegated.
Yeah. By the way, it needs to be said that if Avant are blue shelling every top team every week, they're not blue shelling anymore, they're just good.
Yeah.
So maybe that happens too. In order to blue shell, they have to beat some good teams and lose every other game.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got Infernum versus Hellions, which I think is probably... Well, I guess, again, we'll get to see whether Hellions are the real deal. I mean,
I have to say that'll probably be Hellions' first win. I just don't feel like Infernum is quite good enough to stack up against the other teams right now. Yes, they are good players in themselves. If I played against them in a team, I would get crushed. Yeah. As with the most of the rest of us. But I just don't feel like they quite stack up to the rest of the standard that's being brought. I do have to say in that these 2 O's that we had in the first week don't quite reflect how the standings are. A lot of those games should have gone to 2-1s. Like, there should have been games taken off them. A lot of them should have gone to game 3, but unfortunately that's just not the way things played out.
Yeah, and I'd say that they're games that by, like, week 7, we will see go to a third game.
Just so you know, Panda, you don't have to preface this team is bad with, oh, by the way, I know they would kick my ass in any game.
Yeah, we all know, we're shit. Like,
because you don't have to preface that.
Diamond 5, support main. Okay, calm down.
So anyway, and then the last series is, of course, Chiefs versus Direwolves. And, that's just another, top 3, top 4 teams playing against each other. So really the story this week is it's going to indicate, who are the lower tier teams, who are the higher tier teams, and then whether we're going to see any surprises from Advance. And then, after this week, then we'll start seeing, like, the true layout of, like, where teams are really going to start sitting. But
and
this
also
will give
have
us a nice indication.
also how big the gap is, because that matters a lot. Like you might have a bottom four and a top four, but if the gap between 5 and 4 is not very big, like that makes for an exciting end of season type run situation where you might have, depending how the games go, you might have teams jumping up, you have ties and all the rest of it, a bit like we've seen in the LCS, where you've got you got situations where you've got one situation where there's 7 potential outcomes based on how the games that week go. So
the classic European tie.
Yeah. But then in previous OPL splits, we've had situations where people have gone 0 and 20, and they've got absolutely drubbed. So should be interesting. So which games are on which day? So is the order on the document the order which they're playing this week?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Because I know Trident and Sin are the first game.
Okay, all right, cool.
Because I've taken that straight off the website, so that is in order.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, there you go. So,
I'm loving OPL so far. It's have you guys noticed? I mean, if you've watched the broadcast as well. Sorry, I'm just going to extend the OPL segment a bit. The broadcast is looking a whole lot nicer. They've got a shiny new desk. They've updated the champions behind them, on the big picture wall. There's a big scary Alawi face commonly behind Spawn, which spooked me out the first time.
Evil villain Spawn. We can't.
Yeah. I mean, dude.
I don't know what it is with that guy, but when he's on that desk, the top of every broadcast is like, "All right, guys, welcome to the OPL. Some bullshit about who's playing tonight, and I'm gonna fucking eat you for dinner." Seriously, he's constantly evil villain handsing. I don't know what it is. He can't help himself.
I don't know, because
maybe it's cold in the studio.
He's like a
cold
little
Australia, good one.
spectacled praying mantis.
No, but see, I get the hand rubbing thing, because I used to do that when I was casting as well. I think I do it a bit less since I've been doing live things. I don't know how he does it in a live sort of environment or on camera, but I do it when I'm just at home. I'll be like, yeah, and I'll talk about this. And you can hear my hands rubbing, but no, I do it, so I do sort of understand him.
When
I have to say though,
I start swinging my arms around to make points, and I'll just be on the microphone, so no one even sees it. And I'm getting really...
I still do that too. I mean, sorry guys, no longer the podcast. It's just what me and Pixie do while casting.
I have to say though, that new replay screen is hella sexy.
Oh,
For every villain, there needs to be a hero, fellas, and today we're getting a reworked hero, and that is Shen.
Oh, wow.
Segue!
What a segue.
Hang on a second, we were talking about OPL.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Super villains, huh? That was the right.
Just so you know, I'm just going to do a bit of a humble brag. I got to check out the Riot Studios, for the when I was holidays in Sydney. It's a really small room. It makes it it's surprising how small the room is. Anyway, let's talk about Shen. So we've got.
Randomly slip that in between.
I just thought I would,
because
I got inside.
I know you guys are saying
precision,
which
and segue,
which is totally un-Victor-like. He's usually the one totally derailing things, and he's gone away over the holidays to become the responsible one trying to push the podcast forward. All right, so we've got.
Well, we spent 15 minutes talking about Ocean Week.
So
and it was a good 15 minutes, right? I would do it again if
Shut up!
So we've got visual update, correct? We have got visual update. We've got some new abilities. We've got new splashes, lots of new splashes, all new splashes, in fact.
That's Ocean Week again, right there.
Yeah, they were just really looking to make a splash with
PPA Shen's not an updated splash because it's part of the other thing.
That should be the episode title. Shen's new splashes in Ocean Week.
Shen makes a splash in Ocean Week.
Shen makes a splash in Ocean Week.
Fuck, this is like watching media stream.
So what do we want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about the visuals, or do we want to talk about the skills?
Probably the skills. The visuals. I mean, I guess you can do...
just kind of flares and flourishes to make him look a bit more Ionian, which is sort of their pseudo-Japanese culture. It's nice. Bigger. It's like... Yeah.
But do they fix his massive hands?
I mean, he no longer looks like he's a hunchback, so really, it's got to be an improvement.
His fighting style has been greatly improved. If you actually zoomed in really close on the old crappy Shen model and watched him while he cut shit, he used to stand here like this. Yeah. And then occasionally he'd do the double key strike where he'd cross his hands in front of his face like this, which is really not good if you're a ninja. You have to see everything.
If I can't see you, you can't see me.
And then he would pull them out in this cross shape and just slap him down on his target. And so there was this little joke running around for a while that Shen would actually be a better gardener than a ninja.
Now he actually swings the sword.
And
Yeah, he's
I also want to note that he looks a lot more like physically like the way like his body shape and also some of the robes he wears.
What
He's-
Victor's
Victor
trying to
pointing
say
at
is
himself.
He looks hot.
He's a little bit more represent. Is a little reminiscent.
It is
of
awakened
Zed's-
something.
Let him finish, Pixie.
Pixie, I'm trying to say one fucking thing, man. I'm trying to say one fucking thing. Busting my balls here. So anyway, he looks a lot more like Zed, which I think is very important because of his connections with Zed coming from the same place and etc. So I really like his visual style, the way they've gone with him. He doesn't get any new audio lines though. I think it's all the same.
Oh, that's alright. As long as they just clean up his animations and stuff, because it's a bit like Alistair, where it's like, it's not the worst, but it could do with a bit of work.
Well, Alistair was important not to lose his lines because no one could milk those.
Yeah.
Well, it's important to note that Frozen Shen and Yellow Jacket Shen no longer look like direct rip-offs of like Sub-Zero and
Yeah.
Scorpion.
You
That
reckon?
was-
They still do. They look even more of a rip-off now.
Yeah.
It's the only reason I bought Frozen Shen. Not gonna lie.
Especially the splash art. Have you seen the new splash arts for them?
That's what I'm looking at him right
Yeah.
now.
They're even more of a rip-off.
No, Mortal Kombat 10, I would say. No.
Yeah, well, yeah, what am I gonna say? So does that mean it's not going to work online? He's going to have a terrible release on PC. So let's go to his new passive. I'm going to talk.
Yeah.
I'll talk over the top of you because I can. Okay, so his new passive is Key Barrier. After casting an ability, he gains a temporary shield. The shield has a relatively long cooldown, which is significantly reduced if one of his abilities affects an allied or enemy champion.
Hello, Vi.
Yeah, Twilight Assault. So the thing that doesn't mention in this article is that he's now got a weird sword that's kind of there. Like when I started looking at the abilities, I'm like, where does that sword come from?
And
Like,
at
why
no
is
point
it
does
there?
Explain how it works.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine.
So he's got this. Also now has this weird sword that follows him everywhere, which he can use to position a bit like an Oriana ball, sort of. Yeah, it's not very clear. So Q is his Twilight Assault. Shen calls his Spirit Blade, empowering his next 3 basic attacks to deal damage based on a portion of his target's max health. If Spirit Blade collides, so this actually moves the blade to him, I think. If the Spirit Blade collides with an enemy champion on its way to him, Shen deals increased damage and greatly increased attack speed. All enemies struck by the returning blade briefly suffer reduced movement speed when moving away from Shen.
Yeah, so it's kind of like having an Oriana ball, but you can only do the shield move.
Yeah.
You can only do command protect, and so
So
it's like always going towards you and then just staying wherever you were when you called it to you. And
does it just
stick on you like a ball.
randomly appear like around the lane?
No,
no, it
So
is-
so
It is kind of tethered to him.
So basically, like when you spawn, it is there where he is, and then when you move away from it, it sort of follows behind him a certain distance.
It's like
Ah,
it's kind of like a semi-trained dog.
except it's a sword.
Like,
Yeah,
like
there's
it
a
kind
Spirit
of
Blade.
follows you. It kind of does its own thing, but it will respond to one command. So I guess that's nice.
Yeah.
basically
I would say it's more like Navi from Ocarina of Time. Just kind of follows you around and allows you to target.
Hey!
Or the meeples.
Listen.
The meeples with Bard. And now, so his W is, so Q was his, like, he threw the blade and it gave him health and all that sort of stuff. Now that his W was...
I'm sorry, what the hell is going on Victor's screen right now? Because he stands up, right? And he pulls out a box. And then he pulls out a guitar. And then he pulled out a cat.
Pixie's totally
It's
losing
the-
his shit.
It's the
Wait,
scene from
I didn't see
Mary
the cat.
Poppins, but
Perfect
just Vicked it
size
up.
routine.
Victor's
This
gonna...
happened on our podcast. And no one said anything.
all
Okay.
right. So let's
Pixie's
wait,
completely lost his mind. So his W, previously it was the shield. Now, Shen's Spirit Blade creates a protective barrier that allows Shen and his nearby allies to dodge all basic attacks for a few seconds. The ability triggers when there are allied champions in the zone. If there are no allies in the zone, it waits until one gets close enough.
For 2 seconds.
Interesting to note, on the PPE, when you get hit when you're in there, it says blocked and not dodge.
Oh.
So that just triggers me though. That's
Forever alone Shen, waiting for someone to jump at his barrier.
Yeah.
So,
and
basically,
and his E and his R are the same. So, Shadow Dash, Stand United.
Well,
He's kind
if
of
there's one
followed-
thing, the stand, just to bounce off Carrot, the stand united exactly the same, more or less. The only real difference is it brings the blade with you, which it does anyway when you move too far away from it. The Shadow Dash, this links into, he still has energy, but his energy pool has been increased to 400, as well as his spells have gone up in cost a little bit as well. And the Shadow Dash, he now refunds, because he used to refund just when he hit people with the Shadow Dash, he now also refunds when he hits people with his Q. So, playing as Shen, you're going to be very heavily focused around getting energy back through all your Qs, and so you'll probably be able to rotate spells a bit better like that.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference with his E.
Yeah.
So
The big theme of it has been like a continuation of what Riot has done with most of their new reworks, where they've really looked at what defines the champion at their core, and Shen already had a very, supportive protect people kind of playstyle, with Stand United and all that kind of stuff, right? Being the one to jump in front of the bullet with abilities like Shadow Dash, and this is like Shen plus. I've been trying to deal with this little fucking strand of hair all podcast.
Calm down, Tintin.
Yeah.
But so it's like all the things that have changed with him to me feel like interesting new ways that Shen can do what he was originally supposed to do, where previously Riot just didn't have the experience designing champions and they just sort of went, all right, we'll put this in.
I mean, it's interesting,
yeah,
like,
cool to see.
reading through this now, because when I first read it, I went, oh, yeah, okay. I mean, apart from the fact I didn't understand what the hell's going on with the Spirit Blade, like, reading through it a second time, I'm actually, like, I can see how it kind of works together now, and it actually, it makes it's interesting. Essentially, now he's essentially like a combo type champion. That is, you've got your Spirit Blade, you Shadow Dash, you bring your Spirit Blade towards you, you trigger the dodge, they've been slowed, you're doing max, so there's kind of an element of damage. When you go to another lane, you teleport to them, you then trigger the Spirit's Refuge, you then Shadow Dash, then you do your Q. So there's kind of an element of, there's a sort of a flow to his abilities now, which he didn't have before. Before it was just a bunch of abilities, and it really is a bit like what you said, how like they didn't have an experience, and so before it was just he had a bunch of abilities, and they didn't really have synergy together. Like there was, like I thought his Q was actually kind of cool, but
he's more than just like a pick champ with global presence. Like he's not, because before, like the most notable moments a Shen could do would be like a great flash taunt. Like that's one ability. Like look at something like Thresh, you get a great hook, a great flare, great lantern, a great box. That's a good champion. And Shen is now moving that direction.
I gotta ask, is he not going to be built as a tank anymore?
No, he's still a tank.
Oh yeah, no, his scaling's so bad that you still have to build him as a tank.
Yeah, but not necessarily. Like one of the main advantages of picking Shen, apart from that global presence, and was the health regen that you would get to your entire team when attacking, say, Baron or Dragon. Now that's gone. And that heal was based on his percentage HP. Now, I'm just looking at this, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of things based off his HP anymore. So that is going to be less of a minimum requirement from Shen, and now kind of an option. Like, is there any reason that Shen can't go a more bruiser, aggressive build with some tanky stats?
Okay.
It's sort of the same reason that you don't build Nautilus as a bruiser. Like, his damage doesn't scale off of percentage health. I mean, his shield does, but that's a defensive thing. But
but they have changed the way his energy works, and they've changed his abilities so that there's a lot more use and everything like that. So he's definitely not going to benefit from the item Sheen, but that sort of proc, he could probably get some serious damage at. Yeah,
I mean,
like
okay,
he was building
so-
Trinity Force when he was snowballing previously, and really getting out of control. Even though it's not a gold efficient item on him because of the mana stat, obviously. But like, does he have more incentive now because he gets less from tank items than he did before?
Okay, so
That's actually that's an interesting.
Let Victor
thought,
finish.
Actually.
Okay, so I put down a big list of like mechanical things that come down. So his passive scales, the shield scales from his percentage of his bonus health. His old shield scaled from AP and just its base. His new Q scales with AP. His W doesn't have a scaling, and his new E deals bonus damage equal to his, well, by a percentage of his bonus HP. R is still AP. So there is
what was that last
there's
one?
still his R is AP, his E is bonus HP. So there is still health scaling. They've put health scaling into his kit. They have, however, gutted the Q sustain out. There's no more.
That was a
You hit
stupid mechanic.
Yeah.
which
No,
it was
an incredibly
admittedly
powerful one. It was if
Yeah.
you
And
just
subtle.
want, yeah, exactly. If you just aced a team, Shen gave you the option to do Baron when no
That's-
other champion
yeah.
in the game could.
Okay, I
Like-
know.
Mm.
I get the advantage, but that's not a cool part of someone's kit. That's
No,
a
no, no.
perk.
I agree. I agree with that.
It's stupid. It barely does anything like team wise.
Yeah.
Kind of during laning, during team fights. Because minions, they don't last very long, do they? Champions, if you're attacking someone for long enough to get a benefit from the life sustained from it, then you're probably winning that fight anyway.
Mhm.
And the Baron, and I guess to a point Dragon as well, like, it's not like, if you're getting a benefit out of it, then it's like a very minor perk, and it's in that situation where you just ace the enemy team and you're all on incredibly low health.
Yeah.
Or otherwise it's barely effective at all. So it's not a cool part of his kit, it's just a perk.
I mean,
So
it might
I
still
think it's
be
a dumb
possible.
mechanic.
Like, just it depends how his W interacts with minions and with monsters, because, dodges, like, because there's still basic. I'm not entirely sure how it works with other dodges, but sometimes they can be classified. Those attacks can be classified as basic attacks. So his W gives you a sheer, everybody dodge. So maybe that does allow you to dodge some of Baron's attacks. Certainly, building him tanky allows you to activate W more, and his new W is probably going to be one of the most potent defensive abilities in the game. Like, giving an area effect dodge to a team, that's
The area's
insane.
not huge, and
It- yeah,
it
it's
also
small,
requires
but-
Shen to have been there in the last few seconds, because it does it where his sword is. So
Sure,
Yeah.
but I mean, like,
Also,
it's like,
however, Shen can taunt if the stars align. Shen can taunt 5 people and then activate that on him. Well, we can press the Q, sword comes to Shen, then turn on the dodge, and then for a few seconds he's blocking all the damage that's coming towards him
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
every other person on the team.
Yeah,
And,
there's going to be more cool things that the Shen can do, and you're dead right there, Carrot. Like, that is a really powerful tool. Like, the thing I brought up was this character theme of helping people, like where Vorpal Blade was boring because it was like, hey, everyone gets a heal because I'm here. This is like, if Shen does it right,
yeah.
and he plays well, he can seriously help his team.
I mean, even just as like a peeler for his carry, like,
Yeah.
even just even giving the dodge to another person. Okay, so Mundo, or like somebody who dives the back line, like a Jax or someone, like, or I guess even Aurelia. I mean, some of them use ability, so it's not quite the same. But Shen goes to the aid of his marksman, uses the taunt to peel the damage away, then activates the shield, and it's a bit like Kindred's ultimate. Like, you can just stand there and fight, knowing full well that you're completely safe and that you can save your abilities. You're kiting for other things. So it's. I think it's actually one of those abilities that used right can completely turn around team fights, and it's not like it's totally out of the realms of possibility that you have situations where you've got 10 people piling into one spot for a fight. So even a small AoE ability can have a huge impact.
Yeah, no, I think like it's going to be what Riot wanted the Poppy rework to be, where it's like she's a top laner, but as a tank, but instead of going into the back line and smashing everyone up. She sits back and protects her AD carry with the anti-dash mechanic. Like, now she still just goes into the back line and smashes everyone with 45% CDR. But Shen, though, I think will definitely move into that role. He'll, like, if he's playing in the top lane, he'll be sitting up there, smashing up the bruisers, smashing up the tanks. Like, mid-game, maybe he'll be diving into people in the back line for skirmishes. But then, when it comes to late-game 5v5s, he's going to be sitting right on top of that AD carry. You know, depending on their lineup, of course. Like, if they don't have any melee guys that are going to dive, then he won't be. But if they do, he'll be sitting on his AD carry, perhaps with the support as well. And then suddenly, your Kalista, your Twitch, your Vayne, going to be completely untouched.
Yeah,
because you've got to dive in there, you're going to get taunted, and then of course there's the dodge as well. So,
well, the key thing is, do you guys remember the old submarine move, which was stand uniting onto a stealth Twitch? Imagine that, but now you can't hurt the Twitch.
I have to bring up two things though, because with this new rework comes a change to Shen's lore, and the first line of that lore is the eye is blind to fear because he's now the Eye of Twilight, entrusted to enforce equilibrium in the world. The eye is blind to fear, to hate, and to love. Where does that interact with Zed, and what happened with his old master? Are they going to change Zed's like lore as well? And also, if you look at the Surgeon Shen skin, his sword is literally a giant floating scalpel.
Yeah, that's really cool. But I want to clarify. Shen's always been the Eye of Twilight.
Yeah.
Oh, I just believe that was a new update.
No, he's always been the Eye of Twilight.
Shen, the Eye of Twilight, was always.
Yeah.
You know how they've always got the sub category or the sub name.
Honestly,
Yeah,
I didn't even know that that's what Shen used to be.
There's a lot of them that would surprise you.
Weak.
I know a good number of them.
Did you know that Karthus was the Death Singer?
Is he not anymore?
Yeah, that
I
he
did.
used to have
He
different
was still the
color
Death
particles
Singer.
than he does now.
Yes.
Karthus,
Yes, he did.
Karthus, the squid that used to walk around the map going, "I do it," or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
That's Scion.
said that.
This would be float on.
The new Blood Moon Shen skin,
a cheer.
the Yellow Jackets Shen splash and the Blood Moon splash are so freaking good. I can't believe how good they are.
I like
And
the
I-
Warring Kingdoms one.
I love that the TPA Shen skin is literally like a giant floating one of those like clappy things that they use in the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because it's a sword. It's always been
Yeah.
his sword.
All right. Well, final thoughts on Shen because we got to wrap this up because we were well over time.
Well,
so-
yeah. Just for the benefit of the viewers, I'm going to finish off my little notes thing so they can understand some of his mechanics. First of all, he did lose his sustain, but his base HP regen was increased. That's probably something you're thinking of. Oh, he lost his sustain. Well, he probably lost a bit in the lane. You know he's going to be weaker in lane, blah, blah, blah. Well, he actually got a bit... He got a bit more base HP regen. He has a bigger energy pool, I mentioned. Only Shen can see the tether between him and the blade. Similar to when Kalista binds an ally, only Kalista and her ally can see that tether between them. So, like, if you've dumped your sword in a bush and then you're sitting in lane, and then they just, like, stand between, oh, I got you, and you never knew. Haha, get wrecked.
Well, like
but they have actually also...
SpongeBob, how does he do it? How
Yeah,
does he
and they've
do
put-
it?
They've put a little arrow next to Shen so that the enemies can see where the blade is relative to Shen. Q is the only ability that will move his blade. You can't cast W in a specific location and go, right, all the way over there, you can't hit anyone. No, it's only where the sword is. And if Shen walks like a whole screen distance away from the sword, it will teleport to him. It'll just go, boop, there it is now. Same
Does
as
it
when he
teleport
ults
to
for
his
someone,
location or just like nearby?
just on top of him.
Oh, interesting.
Does it have the same sort of channel time as his teleport?
No.
Just go.
Old Shen to get to it.
Imagine if the sword went, and then like teleported onto him. Like,
The sword just grows a pair of fucking spooky arms and goes.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the bugs as soon as he starts coming out, and you just see the sword flying across the screen to catch up with him.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, if you cast W first, dash, and then press Q, the zone will travel with Shen.
Okay.
Sorry,
wonder
it
if
will
there's,
travel
like-
with.
So similar to the Poppy, like blocking leaps and stuff.
Yeah, the zone
Yeah, it
the
moves
zone will
with her.
move wherever the blade goes. It doesn't start. It's not like Oriana's ultimate. If you cast the ultimate and then move the ball during the channel somehow, then like the
hacks.
ult will still go off. Yeah, the Oriana ult will stay in that one spot, but Shen's zone will move with the blade. regardless.
So I'm wondering
Yeah.
if like you can, I don't know, ult down to someone in bot lane, and then as you're doing that, like I'm assuming you're in top lane, you hit Q as the teleport goes through, but before it has a chance, the sword has a chance to teleport to you, and then Q flies right across the map and hits the enemy mid laner as he's recalling.
Yeah.
Gets you the kill.
It's
Like,
like the
that's-
KS in mid lane just rage quits.
The blame.
I
It's
want
like
that to happen.
It's like that Lee Sin. There was a Lee Sin
Yeah.
bug for a while, and you could, like if you did your kick, instead of sending the enemy going somewhere, Lee Sin would just go flying across the map. And like I remember watching this video, he went flying across the map and just out of nowhere kicked the mid lane and took the
Yeah,
kill.
it was-
Kept on traveling.
It was a
until he got
Warwick.
to bot
It's the
lane.
best video. It's probably one of my favorite League of Legends videos. And I think the guy flashes. He's like, "What the hell?" He
Yeah,
flashes.
Just like a full second after it
Yeah.
happens.
It's the best. Anyway, okay. Well, we need to wrap this up. I actually would like to talk about him, how we think he changed him in top lane, but we'll have to save that for next week, maybe.
Oh, and Q doesn't work on towers, by the way, because that would be absurd if he's doing % bonus health damage to
that
towers.
would be mental.
And-
All right.
I also want to say that Shen's Warlord Shen splash art looks like Man at Arms from He-Man, but with a boomerang stuck to his helmet.
Yeah, good point.
I really thought you guys needed to know that. That's how I.
There
felt.
should really be more He-Man influenced
Noted.
stuff in League of Legends. All right.
Good to have you here, Steve.
That's it
Thanks.
for episode 114 of the OzLoL podcast. We're going to be, I think Sunday's going to be our regular streaming time. So
I'll
8
talk to us
p.m.
next week too.
8 p.m. on Sundays, just because OPL during the week, potentially other things on Thursday and Friday. So yes, at this stage we'll probably be doing on this day. So anyway, tune in 8 p.m. twitch.tv/TForce podcast. We'll be back again next week.
I
Good
love you.
evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Panda out.